All right, you guys, welcome back. Not something I would normally drive, but as you can see behind me, I mean, it's kind of a disappointing pile of snow, but it's winter and there's snow on the ground and my Skyline is not good in the snow. So Honda's been kind enough to let me try the brand new, the all new, as you can see immediately from the exterior, CR-V. So obviously CR-V's been Honda's flagship compact SUV for decades now, but this one's completely redesigned, as you can see, way more, shall I say, grown up, mature, bold, maybe, than the previous generation. It's funny, you know, that phenomenon when you're driving a car, thinking about a car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere. That's been happening, and it's so clear in the design language that this CR-V has finally followed what the Civic did, going from, especially when we're talking FK8 Type R to the new 2023 Type R, and it just got rid of all these excess lines. It kind of looked a little bit all over the place and couldn't decide what they wanted to do. If we look from the side here, you can tell the shape of the car. There's a few things different. They've moved basically the A-pillar back and created a longer hood. To me, what that does is creates a German look, a much more muscular look, especially in combination with the vents on the side there and a few other touches. I do like this grille. This one here today in front of me is the EXL, so it is the top of the line model that's not a hybrid. Then of course you have the hybrid Touring, which I will actually be driving in a couple of weeks, so I'll bring that to you guys as well. One of the other things you notice when you're looking at it is the back of the window here. It's a much less aggressive angle here, and there's a little bit more visibility than the previous generation. If I find a photo, I'll stick it up there right now. Of course, base price is $34,000 Canadian. Here in Canada, this EXL, as tested, is $45,000 Canadian, and then the hybrid is around $50,000 Canadian. From the rear, you'll notice the exhaust pipes are not a focal point. This is not a performance SUV, nor is it trying to be, and we'll get to that when we're talking all-wheel drive. But it looks so much better. There's a lot less going on, and somehow Honda managed to make taillights that look kind of aggressive, especially when you're back here. Just, I don't know, the way these LED strips kind of curve in. They do remind me of what Mazda's doing, or what Mazda has done with the CX-5 and CX-50 with their new taillights. I definitely see those elements. I see a bit of Audi here. I don't know what you guys think. When you go up from the base model to either the Sport or the EXL, you do get 18s instead of 17s, but the 18s aren't way too large. They actually leave a lot of sidewall, and so it kind of helps out with the ride in that way as well. And of course, there's some plastic black down here and along the sides. You don't have to worry about your paint getting scratched up. Of course, under the hood here is the 1.5 liter turbo engine. If you know Hondas at all, this engine is very familiar at this point. Effectively the same engine that was in the blue Civic Sport Touring I drove last year, but here, instead of a fun 6-speed manual, instead here it is paired with CVT, so we'll get to that as well. Wow, that motor mount does not look very beefy, but I guess it doesn't really need to be. It's a very light motor, very economical. Quoted fuel economy is 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers in the city, 7.2 on the highway, and 8.4 combined. So here the 1.5 is putting out 190 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. That peak power is around 6,000 RPM. Peak torque is about 1,500 RPM to 5,000 RPM. Those numbers aren't very significant because, of course, it's a CVT. Of course, two-row SUV. What do we have back here? Well, first off, because it is the EXL, we do have real leather. So the Sport package does include leather shift knob and leather steering wheel, which I think are an absolute must. That's a must for me to come up from the base model. But then, of course, in the EXL, you do have perforated leather down here. Unfortunately, no USB charge points here. That is exclusive to the hybrid model. You can see there's a space for them, but they just haven't implemented there. You do have your climate control vents over there as well. Lots of space. You do get heated seats in the rear here on the EXL. Well, why don't we open up the back while we're here? All-wheel drive sticker, Honda, not necessary, but I get what you're trying to say. I don't believe in Canada you are able to actually buy a front-wheel drive CRV. All-wheel drive is standard, but other parts of the world, you are able to spec the base with front wheel drive. Lots of space back here, plenty of space back here, and there's a little bit of customizability. I do like the material of this actually. It's not like a super hard plastic, it's actually still kind of soft. You're not gonna scratch this, and it's a little bit quieter if things are sliding around back here. So, as you guys can see, completely new interior for the CRV. If you've been inside a new Civic or Accord, then this is fairly familiar, but it is night and day from the old CRV to this CRV. This entire center console bit has been moved from a kind of almost like a minivan placement up here, or in a smaller SUV placement, way up here at an angle where you have the shift knob way up there, and then you had a much lower section down here with your cup holders and a sideways placed wireless charger. That's all been gotten rid of, which I love. I do love this honeycomb vent system here that Honda's been implementing. It's very easy to use. It looks a lot cleaner than having separate vents, and that I can get behind. Climate controls nice and high up. Of course, physical buttons. We've got heated seats. Like I said, leather wrapped steering wheel. We've got a heated steering wheel. That comes standard if you bump up to the sport package. Same with the shift knob, like I mentioned. All new CRVs come with hill descent control, which is right there. Standard is a 7-inch touchscreen. Here we do have the 9-inch touchscreen as well as the 9-speaker sound system. And then there's a bump up once again to the Bose when you go with the hybrid. But like I said, I'll be driving that, so we can take a look at that when the time comes. And let's go for a drive. Drive modes, what do we have? We have normal, economy, and snow. Honda has tuned a few things differently here. They've tuned the CVT differently to be more responsive, and they have tuned the all-wheel drive system to be quieter, more responsive, and now, this is huge, it can send up to 50% to the rear. Let's go full throttle though. So at full throttle, it will kind of simulate a little bit of a gear shift there. It will actually kind of rev up, as you guys saw. So the more spirited you get, the more the CVT-ness of it starts to disappear, which is good. All right, so as you guys can see, we are gonna take a second to go for a quick drive in the snow. It's actually not really snow anymore, at least. There is a lot of snow on the ground, but as you can see, it's raining. Still below freezing though, so it's turning into ice. The window here is still frozen. Obviously no defrost on the windows here, so kind of dangerous conditions. I was gonna try and originally shoot the whole video review for you guys in the snow, because of course, all-wheel drive and Honda's snow mode. Apparently it's more responsive, it's quieter, and it can send up to 50% of the torque to the rear. So I was like, hey, let's shoot in the snow. And then I got out of the driveway this morning and it just started pouring. So this does have snow tires on it. We can't even get into the back seats right now. It's frozen over. So what I've noticed is when you put the vehicle in snow mode, the steering firms up noticeably and the throttle becomes less sensitive, which is a very good thing. So it kind of smooths out the inputs a little bit, and then steering just makes it a little bit heavier to make sure you know exactly where the tires are doing, what the tires are doing, and that you're not going to accidentally you know, make a maneuver that you don't want to make. Of course, real-time all-wheel drive, not to be confused with Acura's. Wow, that guy's going very quick. Not to be confused with Acura's SH all-wheel drive. Of course, the last Acura product I drove with SH all-wheel drive was the MDX Type S. Now, of course, that vehicle is built for performance, both all-weather and performance driving, but it is skewed towards the performance driving. So in the rear of that vehicle, you have active torque vectoring, real torque vectoring, and you can send up to 70% of the torque to the rear wheels in that vehicle and 100% of that torque to each rear wheel individually. So that is not what's going on here. The CR-V is still a front wheel drive based vehicle, but it is real-time all-wheel drive, very seamless. In my few days driving the car so far, if you are just cruising in normal mode, it will effectively be sending the vast majority of the torque to the front wheels, but it's very smooth in the way it changes. It doesn't even change to all-wheel drive. It's just a very smooth real-time system, and that's exactly what Honda says, and that's what I'm feeling here right there. As you can see, 50% was being sent to the rear immediately. It's not something you feel unless you actually have the torque screen there. There, you could see, here, if you look closely, I'll try to zoom in maybe. We'll go from a stop, maybe from a roll, and I'll kind of floor it. You can see the front wheels should gain more torque, and then the rear's kind of, there we go, see, and then the rear's got all of the torque. So it seems to be, it takes a lot to get 50% to the rear, but it does happen, and it happens very quickly. In snow mode, flat out from a dig. All the torque getting sent to all the wheels immediately off the bat. Somebody was having fun here. There's a figure eight in the middle of the intersection. Let's see if we can do a little bit of a drift. No drifting in the CR-V. Totally composed, completely composed here in the snow / ice. But this is good. When I'm not noticing a big difference, oh, this guy's doing it right, STI. When I'm not noticing a big difference between having traction control on or off in the snow, that means most of the work here is being put in with the stability control and the all-wheel drive system itself, versus fully just relying on the traction control system to rein in the torque and keep you from slipping, which is great. That means that just the mechanical capabilities and the mechanical grip and torque distribution is really on point here. I have noticed the CVT is quieter. They've done a great job of making it a seamless transition. Now, of course, coming from a driver enthusiast such as myself, and I hope you guys as well, the CVT is not inspiring. That's not what you're buying a CR-V for in the first place. Maybe it's to complement your Civic Type R as a daily in the winter, I don't know. But I haven't noticed it. I haven't heard it. I haven't noticed it when I'm just daily driving. And that's good. That's, you know, mission accomplished there. So I love that. Love the steering wheel. Honda's goal with this CR-V, they say it's going to provide a more emotional and exciting driving experience and a more sedan-like cockpit here. Cockpit is not a term they use, that's my word, but and they've also accomplished that. It incorporates a lot more. It like brings a lot of Civic into CR-V, which is awesome. And one thing where I've noticed that is the seats. The seats are incredibly comfortable, great seats. A lot of manufacturers will somehow, I'm not sure how this happens, but they forget about side bolsters almost. They'll put in thigh bolsters. They'll put in the side bolsters, but then when it comes to your thighs, they'll forget about it. Here they have not. There's a great support in the seats that keep you in. Very comfortable. We have a sunroof, of course, as well. And the steering wheel is so much better than the previous generation. It's a lot more simple. There's about 5 buttons on each side. The wireless charger is in a much better position. Everything's just positioned a lot better, and it looks less confusing in here. I'm not the biggest fan of the whole tablet on the dash look. I believe the previous screen, how it was more integrated in the dash, although it was at an angle, which I don't like, was visually a little bit better, but this is much easier to use, and I can keep my eyes on the road much easier than I would have been able to. What isn't standard, so I guess, yeah, before we wrap up here, I'll get to a few things that aren't the greatest, or that you might just want to know. You know, you can make your own decision on what to buy. Of course, if you guys watch the channel, you know what I'm into, but regardless of what your model is here with the CR-V, how you spec it, you can't get a heads-up display, as maybe you keen eyes have noticed, and you cannot spec a 360 camera. There are no parking cameras here, which I found a little bit strange. Perhaps that's not weird to you, perhaps that's not a deal breaker. Of course, we do have a backup camera, we do have parking sensors. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This has been the 2022 CR-V, brand new. I did not know the CR-V needed so much improvement because I haven't actually driven the previous model, but just looking at them, stepping inside the interior of that, looking at it from the outside, and then getting into this, it is night and day. Honda's coming full force for the Germans and full force for just a refined interior, less confusing, more user-friendly, and just a lot more comfortable of a place to be. So thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. See you soon.